Welcome to Between Heaven and Earth, an internet radio talk show where we help you connect spirit and divine guidance. Lisa Kay, your host, brings you shows that can enhance and transform your life with tips and new ideas for more happiness, abundance, and better relationships. Lisa is an expert on intuition and can show you how to strengthen your inner guidance to empower yourself. Each show is positive and uplifting to inspire your day. Her guest speakers are specialists on self-help, positive thinking, spirituality, and conscious living. Be the best that you can be with Between Heaven and Earth, conscious living for your soul.
And angel blessings to everyone. Hi, I'm Lisa Kay, and today I'm going to talk to you about the 10 key secrets to intuition. I'm going to go over what intuition is and how you can improve yours. This is basically a talk that I give when I speak at public events, so if you haven't heard it before, had a chance, or wanted to because you weren't local, you're in luck because I'm going to share it with you now. So why don't we begin? So the first question that I like to answer for people is, what is intuition? And I break it down into three pieces, what intuition is. So number one, intuition is knowing without knowing how we know it. Number two, direct knowledge without relying on reason. And number three, quick penetrating insight, which would be the epiphany. You know, when you have the epiphany, the aha. So again, I think the key definition of intuition is knowing without knowing how we know. We don't know where it comes from. It just happens that we know. And we're not trying to reason it out or try to figure it out. And sometimes it's very quick and it's a penetrating insight, as they say, that epiphany. What intuition is not, is it is not guessing. It is not creativity per se. And it is not expertise gained after years of practice. It is, it might be honed through that, but it's not specifically the expertise. It is, again, knowing without knowing how we know it. And it just comes to us. So everyone is intuitive. There are no exceptions. And my inner guidance or intuition is what I call divine guidance. And we talked about that last week, that I believe intuition is an inner divine guidance. And I think intuition is really best at giving us this guidance and directing us to what is best for us for our highest good. And that's the wonderful thing, is we have this resource within us that can give us information, help guide us, and help us on our path in our life. So what I wanted to do is share a story about how intuition saved my life through this guidance, this inner guidance. So I'll give you a little background. This is how it all began. So 30 years ago, I started my adult life as a scientist and an engineer. And the reason why I did that was because I love to know how the world works. And I like to know, I just loved the way science would explain so much in the physical world, and as an engineer, how, to make things happen using that knowledge of science and make life easier for you. And it also explains how man has made things to make things work in the world. So I love to know how the world works. But what I did find is the one thing science does not explain is how people know some amazing things, like how to avoid getting on that plane that ended up crashing, or knowing that their loved one needed help just at the time that they were in need, and that and they went to rescue them. So those are amazing stories. I'm sure all of us have heard those stories, and it just amazed me. And science does not explain that. So intuition seems to be like these messages from heaven, from who knows, we don't know how we know it. It might be explained as angels giving us messages, or spirit, or messages from our highest good, or the universe. So I started to think about this magical inner voice. It's that inner voice that always seems to know the right thing when you need it. And if you listen to it, it seemed to be like this magical gift from God or the universe. And that inner voice, it saved lives. It's helped people find treasures. It helped people find their purpose, their passion in life. It helped them avoid things that would be, certainly get them in trouble. It could help them find relationships that were their soulmate, the perfect job. It was just amazing. And I found that fascinating, and science didn't explain it. In fact, I did study psychobiology, partly because I wanted to know how the mind works, how the brain works, how we think. And this was the part that really seemed to be elusive. But there is a lot of studies out there, and there is some science in this, which becomes a little bit more esoteric for people. But whatever this thing is, this intuition, these messages from heaven, it created new innovations and inventions. It seemed to be like this super wise one in your head. And some super wise people like Einstein said, he's often quoted, but he said about intuition that the only real valuable thing is intuition. That was what Einstein said. And he has another quote, which I used to have on my website, but it's not there. I should put it back up. But he talks about how we basically allow our rationale to be the thing that guides us rather than our intuition, which really has a lot more value to it. Bill Gates said, often you have to rely on intuition. So that these people who are very successful use their intuition to guide them and to become successful. So I began to learn about intuition, inner guidance. I learned about angels and spirit guides a long, long time ago. And over the past 30 years, when I wasn't doing my science and engineering, I would always go back to this and research things that were, more esoteric, that were like metaphysics and so on. And I researched and I practiced and studied a vast wealth of knowledge about intuition and psychic development. And in fact, my PhD dissertation is on intuition and human psychic abilities. It's called, if you're interested, The Intuitive Mind, Why Everyone Has the Natural Ability of Intuition. And there's a lot of wonderful things that I discovered in there. Some of it was science and some of it was metaphysics and researching the human energy field and how that all kind of overlapped, which is totally fascinating to me. Again, I just love to know how things work. So I started to learn how to intuitively receive messages from my angels over 17 years ago. And I continued to practice using my intuition and to get these angel messages every day. What I actually did was I learned how to communicate with angels or get messages from them using what I call automatic angel writing. And it's a really simple practice, and it really works. And when I started to learn it, it was, I didn't think, I wasn't even sure I believed that you could do this. And I didn't believe that, I wasn't even sure if angels existed, but I thought, let me try this. And so it was a simple process of quieting your mind and connecting to angels and getting messages from them through writing. And it was really amazing because I started to get some fascinating things. I thought, I would get just kind of gobbledygook, but I actually got real information, real messages that were very helpful to me. And that was my first experience with angels. Since then, I've studied more. I think I talked about how I got it. I became an angel therapist in our last show. And through that guidance, through my angel writing, I was actually able to find the perfect teacher. And you can go back into the archives and listen to that. But it was a really fun, amazing, actually, very, very surprising set of circumstances that helped me do that. But let's get back to how my intuition saved my life. And I'll just start the story before we go to break, and then we'll continue afterward. So a few years ago, my angel messages saved my life. And again, these angel messages are messages that we get through our intuition, right? We don't know how we know it, but they're divine, wonderful messages. And it was a late summer of 2008, and I thought I had a cold or flu. I had a low grade fever. It was about 100, 101, and I had these aches, and it would come and go for a couple of weeks. So it was a little odd, though. It was in the summer. Most people don't get the flu in the summer, but I figured, all right, what the hey, I must have something. So after a couple of weeks, one night I woke up shaking uncontrollably, and I never shake. I never shake when I get, I had a fever, but I never shake when I have a fever. And my husband, I had to get him to call the ambulance, and they rushed me to the emergency room. And by the time I got to the hospital, the shaking stopped, and I was feeling better. And the doctors did a few tests, and they found out that I had a bacteria in my blood. But since I was feeling better, the doctor sent me home. And of course, what they do is they send you home. And the next day, my previous primary care doctor didn't think it was too serious. But what do they do when you have something wrong, right? They give you pills. So they gave me antibiotics. But I continued to have these attacks of extreme fatigue, and I was short of breath and with my heart racing all the time. It would come and go. And my heart would race, and I would feel like I was going to pass out, but I was lying in bed. And I couldn't understand, why is this happening? And one day, the attack was so bad that my hands turned white, and I went back to the emergency room again. And we're going to continue this story. I'll tell you what happened after our break.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue-collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into OMTimes Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi. This is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
everything was fine. And I said, well, I don't understand that. Why is this happening? Why am I short of breath and my heart races? And the doctor said to me, oh, that was fear. You were hyperventilating. Now, I knew that wasn't true. I knew that there was something very wrong and that this wasn't normal, but they didn't listen to me. But they sent me home. What was I going to do? So I went home, and what I did was I turned to my angels. I turned to my intuition, my inner guidance, and I asked them about it. And what the messages that I got back, what I received was that it was serious, but that I would be okay if I found another doctor who specialized in infectious disease. Now, by this time, it was, when I got this message, it was already Friday afternoon. And of course, what happens when you need to find a new doctor and it's Friday afternoon? It's almost impossible to find a doctor, right? So I called, but of course, didn't get any responses, left messages. The next day, Saturday, I tried to contact any infectious disease doctor that would take me, but they were all out of the office or they didn't return any messages. And I started to get very worried. I was still having these attacks. There were still these episodes. They were coming and going. And I felt if I returned to the emergency room, they'd just send me home again. So then by Sunday, I was feeling worse, and I was feeling in despair. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid. And my intuition, my inner guidance, my messages told me, they guided me to read a book. And this happened to be a book that was on the shelf that I had bought a while ago. And the book was on how to find the best doctor. It was written by a very famous MD. And she actually wrote two books, but I had both, but I had loaned one already to somebody else. And the only one that I had was How to Find the Best Pediatrician for Your Child. So I read that one. I was guided to do it, so I read it. And at the time, I didn't know why I was guided to do that. But as I read the book, the word pediatrician kept coming up over and over again. Pediatrician, of course, because it was scattered throughout the book. And as I was reading, I realized that my son's pediatrician was not only a friend, but he was a neighbor that lived down the street, and maybe he could help me find somebody. So I picked up the phone to call him at home, and in my mind flashed an intuitive message. It said, he's away on vacation, but he'll be back later today. Leave a detailed message. That was it. He's away on vacation, but he'll be back later. Leave a detailed message. And that's how our intuitive messages come. It's very short and to the point, and it's flash. It's quick. So, I dial the phone, ring, 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 and the phone rang. He didn't pick up. And when he didn't pick up, I left a detailed message on his voicemail. So later that day, around dinner time, he called me back. And he said, I was away on vacation. I just got your message. And what you need to see an internist who specializes in infectious disease. I know someone who will see you right away. You need to go as soon as you can. But I'm going to email him now, and he will see you first thing in the morning. So I did. I called him, and he the next day, and he saw me that day right away. And then Tuesday, he put me in the hospital. He put me in the hospital because he said, we have more information now. What you have is you have a heart infection. And that was what was wrong with me. So he put me in the hospital, and I was there for a couple weeks. And I had intravenous antibiotics, not the pills. And that's what saved me. And basically what was going on was I was going into sepsis. The bacteria that was in my blood, that they knew was in my blood, was not being controlled by the pills. It really needed a much more intense treatment. So, needless to say, after 6 weeks of treatment, after I left the hospital, I actually continued to get intravenous antibiotics. I'm fine. And everything turned out all right. I don't have any heart problems as a result of it, thank goodness. But if I had not listened to my intuition to find another doctor, I'm not so sure that I would have done so well. Heart infections can be very insidious, and it's very, very serious. So that's what happens when you can learn how to develop your intuition. When you develop it to the point where, and by this time, I have to tell you, I had developed my intuition. I had begun to do intuitive readings for other people, and done a lot of studies, as I said, and I was practicing a lot because I was out there doing readings and actually working a lot with my intuition and learning how it works. So you can get to the point where it can do wonderful things for you and it can help you in your life. And, and you might have had that experience that, I think I'm intuitive, maybe I'm not intuitive. Intuition is really cool. Other people have it. Can I develop it? And yes, you can. Everybody has it. A lot of people come to me and say they get intuitive flashes once in a while, but they have no control over it. And, little things like, oh, I knew that person was going to wear red today. Or, you're thinking about somebody who you hadn't seen in a long time, and this is a classic one, and they call you out of the blue, and you just thought about them. So these are very strong intuitive experiences people have. But the problem is that it just happens randomly, or it happens on things that are not that important. I want to be able to save my life when I need to. I want to know which way to go. I want to be able to know the best diet to go on to lose weight. I want to know how I can find the best job, or where am I going to find my soulmate? Is this person right for me? What do I do in this relationship to fix this? That's what we want to use our intuition for, our inner guidance, and you can do that. So, and get the detail. Some people get it felt weird to me. I don't know what's wrong, but I feel something's not right, but they don't know what it means. So people want their intuition to work on what they want and when they want. And, I've learned how to do that, and I've figured it out, and I teach. And so I teach people how to do that. So we're going to go over the 10 key secrets and show you how to do that. And so the way you do that with your intuition is to know how your intuition comes to you, what form it takes, and understand how to work with these pieces of information that you get to get more detail. And then learn how to trigger your intuition when you want it to work for you. So those are 3 things. You might want to write these down, and we're going to go into the 10 key secrets. And so make sure you get something to write with and write on. And we'll probably do that right after our next break. So I'll give you some time, and if you go to the break, you can go get something to write with. But again, so how we get our intuition, the first steps, the basics of learning intuition is number 1. How does intuition come to you? How does it come within you? What is the form that it takes within you? Is it inside of you? Is it outside of you? When it's inside of you, what is it? Is it a little voice that rapidly talks to you, or is it something that just gives you a word or two? And we'll go through that. So that's number 1. How does intuition come to you? Number 2 is understanding how to work with the information that comes to you through this. So these again are general how to learn to develop your intuition. And number 3 is how to make your intuition happen when you want, how to trigger it. So that's the process. And then we're going to go through these 10 key secrets. Lots of my students are surprised how easy it is to develop their intuition, their psychic abilities once they learn the right techniques. And I'm going to share with you a little bit on how to do that. So I'm going to give you the first 10 key of the 10 key secrets, and we'll go through them, and then we'll go to break. So number 1, write this down, is to be relaxed and open. So it's important to be receptive and passive, not receptive and anxious, or not receptive, or you have to be relaxed and open, and being open in a passive way, not trying to force an answer or not trying to make it happen. It's important to be very passive and receptive to receive your answers, because the answers are guidance, and so you have to be open to whatever comes. And remember, it's knowing without knowing how we know it. It just happens. And whatever you receive is okay. And we'll talk a lot more about that. But, when you're uptight or worried about what you're going to receive, the intuitive messages are much, much harder to receive. You almost kind of force them away. And So we need to practice being a very relaxed and open state when we get our intuitive messages. And I'll talk about how to make those messages come to you. And remember, these answers are guidance. They're not going to tell you what to do. That was the most frustrating thing for me, was trying to get my intuition, my intuitive messages from my angels or wherever it comes, to tell me what to do. And it doesn't tell you what to do. It will give you guidance. And that kind of helps characterize how the messages come, because we're looking for explicit instruction that's going to tell us the entire story from the beginning to the end, when these messages come, when they appear to us. You can get the detail, but it doesn't come all at once like that. So they're going to give you a little guidance from where to go to the next piece to get the next answer. So again, don't be anxious or tense about getting the answer. One comes, it always does. That's another thing to help you be relaxed and open. You don't have to worry about it. And I do get this from my students. Suppose I don't get anything, what's going to happen? We always get something, because we're always thinking, we're always feeling, we're awake. You probably won't get one when you're deep asleep. You might get one in the middle of your half asleep or that quasi state. But so you're always going to get something. And so you don't need to worry about it. Don't be anxious or tense. Be relaxed and open. That's number one. And we're going to go on to the rest of the 10 key secrets to intuition after our break.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back. So welcome back. We're going through the 10 key secrets to intuition, and I hope you got something to write with and write on, because we're going to go through them, and they're really great. This is like the foundation. This is what you need to know to get. Had I known this when I started out, or maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, it would be so awesome, because my intuition would have grown so quickly. It could have really helped me during that time. And that's part of why I do what I do, because I want to help people get a hold of it. Because my intuition works for me whenever I need it, it brings me a lot of calm. It brings me a lot of comfort and solace, because I know I can always get messages that are going to help me and that are always for my highest good. So, and that's something I want to do for you. In fact, one of the things I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you some free videos. And we've got that out there. Going on for this month of April. It's only for a few weeks it'll be out there, but you can actually sign up for those. Again, they're free. They're 3 or 4 of them, and it's a free video series that answers common questions people ask. That people ask me all the time, like, how do I make my intuition happen when I want it to? How do I know it's my intuition and I'm not making it up? And how do I get more detailed information from my intuition? We answer all those questions in this free video series. And you can sign up actually if you go to my website, lmk88.com, and go to the right side. And under a place that's called What's Hot, you'll find a link that's on the right side. There's a link that says 3 free videos. It's blue. Just click on that, and then it'll take you to where you can sign up to get notifications for the videos. You'll get a video right away, and then there are a few that come out over the next few weeks. And so if you give us your email address, then you're going to get notified automatically when they're available. And each one is really answers those questions. How do I know? How do I make my intuition happen when I want it to? That's really key. And how do I know it's my intuition and I'm not making it up? And we go through that in the videos, and so you will be notified when they're available. But the first one is ready right now, so go out there. You can also go to Facebook. We are out on the radio show, has a Facebook page. It's called facebook.com. The URL is facebook.com/Between Heaven and Earth. And just go there. And there's actually there's a button. I figured this out. I love technology. There's a button right on that Facebook page. It says watch video. You click on that and you're going to go to the same link. It will give you a place where you can sign up for those free videos. So it's really cool. Go to facebook.com, Between Heaven and Earth. That's not too hard, right? And I'll tell you a little bit more about some other things you can do with me in a little bit. We're going to go through the rest of these 10 key secrets where you can learn more about developing your intuition. So, excuse me, let's go back. So here we go. Number 1 was be relaxed and open. I hope you wrote that down. Number 2 is this: no figuring it out. It's the same thing as no judging. No, don't judge the answer. Don't figure it out. You get the answer. You get what you get. You don't get upset. That's what I tell everybody. Everybody knows that who's a student. The ego mind and the thinking mind is 100% non-intuitive. So you don't want to think. You don't want to try to judge it. That's ego. When we receive an intuitive message, it doesn't, a lot of times, especially when we're starting out, especially when you're just starting to develop your intuition, it doesn't make sense. And you will get a message, and it is a true message, but it doesn't always make sense. So we judge it. We try to figure it out. We try to make it make sense. So I'll teach you how to make it make sense, but you have to get whatever you get and not get upset. You got to get the peace. And when we judge it, we corrupt it. And that's a bad thing because you may miss. Hey, let's go back to my example, how my intuition saved my life. If I was trying to figure it out, it's like, oh, why should I read a book on pediatricians? That's not what I don't need a pediatrician, so I wouldn't have read it, right? I would have just ignored it. Then I would have missed the message. You don't want to judge it. You don't want to corrupt it. You don't want to force it into meaning something that it isn't, because you're not the one that made up the message. It was given to you, right? And remember, the messages are coming from outside of us, so we don't know exactly what the message is going to say. I mean, you don't know what people are going. So if an angel will tell you, or somebody else outside of you is going to tell you, you listen. You're open. Don't judge what they're saying. Don't try to figure it out. It might lead us to the wrong conclusion. Okay, number 3. Fragments and symbols. Fragments and symbols. Intuitive messages do not involve thinking. They come in fragments. They come in pieces. They're symbols. The intuitive message might appear as a thought, but it's usually complete. It's usually a thought that pops up. It's not, a lot of pieces, a lot of logic. It's not a diatribe. It's not a long lecture. The thought is short and fleeting. Sometimes it's piecemeal. Sometimes these intuitive messages feel or seem like, again, fragments. And this is how the right side of our brain works. Now, remember, I have background, I have a degree in psychobiology, and so I understand how the brain works. And this is really the right side of our brain is our intuitive processor, our intuition processor, and where we get our intuitive messages. And then the left brain has to express it through words. So the right side of our brain functions in symbols, in pieces, and it pops up at you. So you just take the answer that you get. It's not going to always have full detailed information, and you often have to put the pieces together to make the information make sense. And this is what I train you to do. And we'll talk about that. So you're going to be given pointers to the next step. It's not always a big picture or solution yet. You get guidance. The pieces give you guidance. So that's number 3, fragments and symbols. So let's go to number 4. Number 4 is believing equals power. Believing boosts your intuitive power. So you have to believe that you can do it. It really is important because not believing is linked to judgment, right? And when we judge, that's ego. And when we have ego, that's not intuitive. So the energy booster to our intuitive process, that gives us intuition power, is belief and trust. And knowing that the answer is there and will come to you. It will come. You'll get the pieces. It'll start to form a meaning for you. You have to believe that you can and you are getting messages. So, we all love that, right? Trust is important. And when you trust and you believe, this allows you to let go and let it happen. And this will again come up a little bit later. We'll talk a little bit more in detail. So that's number 4. Number 4 is believing equals power. Okay. And number 5. Number 5 is signs outside of you. Now, messages, we think, intuition is all inside of us. That it comes up as a feeling, it comes up as a thought, or we hear something, or inner voice. It is, and sometimes it can be outside of us. So don't ignore that. It's come up for me many times where I had a message. Basically, I'll give you an example. I was doing a mediumship reading for somebody, and which, you use your intuition, which is really your psychic abilities, which is really the basis for mediumship. And I happened to be looking at my glass of water that I always have with me, and I kept staring at it, and I realized, okay, the sign outside of you, this is a message. This is something that's part of the message that I need to talk to about this person. So long story short, I used my intuition and my methods and my advanced intuition, which helps you become that psychic medium. And I told the woman, I said, what I'm getting is that, your past loved one has a fear of water, and it's a very extreme fear. There's a fear I feel of drowning. And she said, yes. Oh my God, yes. Her deceased loved one was so deathly afraid of drowning. So that's how you get it. It's outside of you. Don't forget that. Messages can be outside of you. They could be road signs, license plates, an earth angel, which is a human, can come and give you a message. All of a sudden someone says just the right thing you need to hear. And sometimes the message is a pointer on where to get more information. It might be a book comes along and it's like, oh, I got to read that book. I don't know why. It falls off a shelf all of a sudden. You happen to, see it many times go by. Maybe you're reading a magazine, an article, or it opens just up to the right article you need to see. It can be a place that you feel like you have to go to as you're walking along, or it might be, some activity, that is drawing you. So those are some things that you can, that can be signs outside of you. And, and again, they're pieces that come to you. So we'll go over it again. We'll just do this quickly, and then, and we're going to go to break in a little bit. But number 1, again, just in case you missed it, is be relaxed and open. Number 2 is no figuring it out, no judgment, don't judge the answer. Number 3 is fragments and symbols. Number 4 is believing equals intuition power. And number 5 is signs outside of you. You can get signs outside of you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, we're going to go over the rest. We've got, 5 more. We're doing our countdown. But I wanted to tell you that later I'm going to be going through more of this, giving an online class. And, if you're interested, you can connect with me at lmk88.com, and you're going to get lots of information through my teachings on, again, more in depth, how to understand all this, get intuitive messages more consistently, how to control your intuition so you can get messages when you want, get that detail. And we do metaphysical energy, how to protect yourself, and use your intuition to help others. And I'll tell you a little bit more after the break on exactly the things you're going to learn. We'll go over the topics. It's really, really cool. And you'll be able to do this course anywhere, at home or on the way to work, or wherever you have time and place, on your smartphone, your computer, your iPad, tablet, Android, iPhone. It's really amazing. The course works anywhere that you have access to the internet. And we're going to be doing a once-a-week call and I do intuition exercises with all of you and Q&A sessions in this online class. And it's just with the online students. It's awesome. You get to work with me one-on-one. It's a great class, and we'll be doing that in a couple of weeks. But go out there, sign up for that free video, because that's the beginning. A lot of good stuff in there for free.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Know what to do, just can't figure out how to fit it all into your busy life? It doesn't have to be that way. Hi, I'm Alan Baisberg from Seamless Life. Join me every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio and learn the how of conscious living. Let me and my guests help make your life seamless.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I've tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back. This is Lisa Kay, and you're listening to Between Heaven and Earth. Hey, you out there on Twitter, if you want to tweet me about the show, we don't have a way to take callers yet, but you can tweet. And just use the hashtag LMK88, and I'll see your tweet. So we're kind of looking for that and seeing if we can get people to say hello. So say hello out there. Go to Twitter, hashtag LMK88, and I'll see you in Twitterland. So we are going over the 10 key secrets to intuition. And guess what? We are up to number 6. So let's do number 6. Number 6 is you trigger your intuition by asking. So what do you ask? You ask a question, and your intuition will always respond. So you trigger your intuition by asking a question. Now, people always complain, well, how do I make my intuition work? It just kind of appears. Well, you can by asking it a question. And you will always get an answer again. So you can ask for all kinds of things. You can ask for parking spots. You can ask for what to eat for lunch. And oftentimes you can ask for help with anything. And even before you know what it is you want to ask for, your highest good, your angels, your guides, whatever it is, knows that you're going to ask and will give you an answer. Now remember, the pieces that you get, the fragments, are going to be guidance. And as you get better, you will get more detail. And as you develop, you're going to get more complete information. But it may be just a piece. So I had somebody ask me when I gave this talk to a group of people. She said, well, how did you get all that information? You're telling us that, you just get a piece here or there. Well, how did you got that whole thing, he'll be back later, he's away on vacation, leave a message, I'll be back later. And I said, well, I've been doing this a long time. And I've been practicing and working, and I have a methodology that works. That's how it works. So you ask for help. You ask your intuition. You ask, and I always say it's good to ask, outside of your angel, so you don't feel like you're asking yourself. Help me find that parking spot, and you'll be guided to the best place. So another thing you can do, the next thing, number 7, is ask for clarity. Now, a lot of times you're going to get that little piece of information. I don't really quite know what that means. I got an apple. I don't know what apple means. So you can ask, why did you show me apple? Give me another answer. So you can ask again. And that is what I call the cycle of Q&A. And we go into a lot of detail in that in the class, in the course, on how to use that. And you start to build the answer. You start to get the answer. People think that when they watch, a very famous psychic medium like John Edward on TV, he's got all this information, and that's how it's supposed to come. I'm not intuitive. It doesn't come like that to me. Well, you are. It's just that he's practiced and he's developed it and he's getting information, and he has a methodology putting it all together. So don't think you're going to be like, John Edwards. You're not going to be when you first learn to ski, you're not going to go down the double black diamond right away. It takes a while. Okay, number 8. Number 8 is you get what you get and you don't get upset. Do you have kids? I have a 17-year-old now. He's not young, but when he was little, it was like, hey, you get what you get and you don't get upset, right? This is also the same thing as let go to receive. That we talked about this earlier. You have to let go of what comes. You don't want to corrupt the message. The harder you push to get an intuitive message, the more elusive it becomes. So whatever answer you get is fine. Get it. Just get what you get, and you don't get upset. That's number 8. And when I do intuition exercises with my students, I have a methodology such that you can get what you get and don't get upset in a certain way. One of the things I ask people to do is write it down, because then it's not as easy to judge unless you can judge what you put down. But if you were sitting there and you're trying to work with someone else and you start sharing it by speaking, then we are much more reluctant to share verbally than to write something down. So, but this is, and again, there are other techniques as well that to help you, do that, and so you can get the messages and not let your judgment mind, your criticism, get in the way. Okay, number 9, we're getting down there. Number 9 is outside tools. Outside tools. So what do I mean by that? These are actually what we call divination tools. Don't be afraid about what that term means, but really what it is things that can help you get your message and stimulate access to your intuitive side, your intuitive brain. It also helps stimulate you to become more aware of the things that are going on in your right brain, because again, that's your intuition processor. We have been born with a biology that gives us the ability to process intuitive messages and process where our intuition resides, so to speak. And that is all part and parcel of what our instinct is. Animals have instincts, so do we. It all sits in our right brain, and other parts. When I go through this in the class, but it's really our lower part of our brain, which is more the limbic system and the reptilian brain that receives a lot of the feeling, the intuitive gut feeling, and then our right brain actually processes it first. That's why we want to reach into that right side of our brain and be able to take those pieces and put them together. So how do we do that? We use outside tools. So what do I mean by that? So some people like to actually, what you can do is you can use almost anything. I mean, there are lots of tools out there, and they call them divination tools. There are a bazillion of them. And all that is something that kind of gets you out of your left brain. There are things like oracle cards, and or a deck of cards. Actually, a deck of playing cards. That's where they came from. They actually came from doing these readings, these intuitive readings. It's a tool. And now we just, play games with them. But they were actually part of, I believe, like oracle cards. So I like to use angel cards because angel cards are, they're always light, they're uplifting, there's nothing scary about them, and they have beautiful pictures and messages on them. So if you are having, you're not quite reaching into your right brain, you can read the messages on them. But as I say, but what you're doing is you're using these cards to start stimulating and again, remember I said outside of you is where you get your messages, so you'll be attracted to certain things. And also the energy of the universe helps pull out the things you need to look at, helps pull out the card. We're all connected. It's all energy, right? Okay, you ready? The last one, number 10. Number 10, write this down. Listen carefully. Number 10 is, where is the bathroom? Okay. It's not actually where the bathroom is, but it's the question. And it's really what's more important about it is how the state of mind you're in when you ask where the bathroom is. We've all done that. We've all been in a place where we don't know where the bathroom is and we have to go. So we ask. Now, usually, sometimes it's an urgent thing, right? And you got to ask, you got to go. So you ask somebody and you expect an answer. Particularly if it's this person's house, where's the bathroom in your house? Or, you ask the waiter, where's the bathroom in the restaurant? They know. So what do you do when you ask that question? You pause after you ask it. You're open and you wait and you're not judging. You are just receptive. That is the state you must be in when you ask your intuition a message. And it works. It's very, very, very important. So, and that's why I left it as number 10. It's the most important thing. Where is the bathroom? And you listen. Most of the time you're not judging. You're not going, oh, I know what they're going to tell me. They're going to tell me it's over there in the back on the left. You want to know because you got to go. So that's key. And you keep that in mind. So we did the 10. Let's go over them very quickly again. Number 1 is be relaxed and open. Number 2, no figuring it out, no judging the answer. Number 3 is fragments and symbols. Number 4, believing equals intuitive power. Number 5, signs outside of you. Number 6, you trigger your intuition by asking a question. Number 7 is you can ask for clarity. And number 8, you get what you get and you don't get upset. Number 9, outside tools. And number 10 is my favorite. Where is the bathroom? And there's actually a number 11 or a 0, and that is to practice. Practice, practice, practice. It's very important. And that's why it's important to, go out and, if you can, take a class, work with other people, like minds, because that's going to help you hone your intuition skill. Now, I gave you all these 10 key secrets. They're key characteristics of intuition and how to work with it. But the best thing is to go take a class, take a course wherever you are, because that's going to put structure in. I think mine's the best. It's I take from a lot of different places. It gives you structure, and I really go through everything I've learned. It's jam packed. So and I teach people the learning process of how your intuition gets developed, the intuition development process of learning it, how to find what your strongest inborn, say, psychic talents are and how to work with those, and also how to grow the ones that are not so strong. I believe that we all can be clairvoyant. We all can be clairaudient. We can all be clairsentient? What are all those things? I know you might not be familiar with the terms, but you can get intuitive messages through your feeling, through images in your mind. I actually became clairvoyant, which means I get messages through images, and I never thought I could. I never thought I could get anything. I could never see, I didn't see auras, but I do now, and I learned how to do that. So you can develop it. It's you're a thinking, feeling, seeing person. You're not just a hearing person. So you could do that with your intuitive skills, your intuitive senses, your psychic senses. So these are all the things that we do in the class. So if you go over to my website, lmk88.com, you'll be able to sign up and get those free videos. That's the first way to start. And then I'll talk to you in the video at the end. We'll talk about how to sign up for the course. You can take it anywhere. Take it with you. You've been listening to Between Heaven and Earth. We are an internet radio talk show to help you with conscious living for your soul. So we're at the end. We're going to see you next week. Tune in right here on OMTimes Radio.